that the signal school ever existed at Leydean, so I decided to do something about it. After much research and consultation with a number of individuals and organisations, I decided the best way to commemorate the existence of Mercury at Leydean and its impact on the local and wider community was a blue plaque scheme. Having compiled a list of every possible location for the plaques, I invited a number of people to form a blue plaque team. This group, some of whom are here today, represented a cross-section of the Mercury community. And after various meetings and some unavoidable delays, the first plaque was unveiled on the Rising Sun pub in Clanfield on Sunday the 26th of October 2014 with an amazing turnout. Timing was critical as Mary and I were due to move to Norfolk, which we did just 2 days after the Rising Sun unveiling. Fortunately, David Smith had agreed to take over management of the scheme, and the rest is history. David had done a most remarkable job in progressing the scheme and bringing it to today's conclusion. And what we have is a fitting tribute to HMS Mercury and the approximately 500,000 people that served or trained there. Despite being far away in the flatlands of Norfolk, David has kindly kept me fully informed in every aspect of the scheme and the decision making.
Thank you, Dave.
Well done, Dave.
Well, it's been a long road. And as Dave said, it was over 3 years ago that we got together to discuss the idea of putting Mercury back on the map. It was clear, certainly to me, that the existence of Mercury was unknown to many people, particularly of the current generation, the younger generation. An establishment that not only played a large part in our lives, but many of the local community too. I have spoken to many of the younger generation over the last 3 years, and almost without exception, they were not really sure what Mercury was or where it was, and certainly unaware of the huge part it played in so many service and civilian lives. I hope our programme of blue plaques and the publicity it has attracted has gone a long way to putting that right. As Dave said, we decided to start with the Rising Sun at Clanfield. You'd have to go a very long way to find anyone who served at Mercury who had not visited this pub at some time during their stay in Leydean. So it was on the 26th of October 2014 we unveiled the first plaque. We had joint unveilers that day. We had Commodore Peter Swan and we had Commander Keith Evans. Those of you who were there remember him. The latter had served at Mercury shortly after it opened in the early 1940s, and prior to that on HMS Hood.
Still with us.
A couple of months later, on the 13th of December, we unveiled our second plaque at the Baton Ball at Hambledon, and our guest of honour that day was Captain David Hart Dyke, my ex-boss from Gurkha 50 years ago. You will remember him better from the Falklands War and the loss of his ship HMS Coventry. During 2015, further plaques were unveiled at the Sustainability Centre on the Mercury site when Commodore Tony Morrow did the honours for us, and that was followed by the Pinky at Soberton, First Officer Polly Booth, the Isaac Walton at East Meon, Vice Admiral Sir Nicholas Hill Norton did that for us, at Broad Halfpenny Down Cricket Pavilion when Dave Morris was the duty unveiler, and at the hurdles at Brockbridge where Vice Admiral, at the time Vice Admiral, Philip Jones was our guest of honour.
Brockbridge.
It was not long after the hurdles unveiling that it was announced that Admiral Philip Jones would be the next First Sea Lord. And I like to think the two events were connected. But that's not 3 further plaques followed last year. In May we unveiled at the Bird in Hand at Lovedean, and our guest was Warrant Officer R.S. Dave Taverner. Is he here today somewhere? This was closely followed a month later with Warrant Officer C.Y. Paul Sainer doing the honours at the Heroes in Waterlooville. In September, Warrant Officer Yeoman Hugh Axton unveiled our 10th plaque at the Red Lion at Cholton. March of this year saw us at the Hampshire Hog in Clanfield, where the joint unveilers were Chief Wren R.S. Ollie Butler and CRS Ned Davies.
Never heard
Our 12th and penultimate plaque a few weeks ago was at the Tesco store in Lovedene, a building that will always be the Green Dragon to us, or the Fleetwork Trainer South to some of you. Our guest of honour was Commander Mike Cheshire, who is currently leader of Harran Borough Council. And so today we arrive at our 13th and final plaque, and I am delighted to say that Commodore Peter Swan has agreed to lower the ensign on our scheme by unveiling our plaque today. Before handing you back to Dave, I would just like to mention a few people who I will be eternally grateful to for their continued support during the past 3 years. Peter Swan, of course, who was part of the Blue Pack team, has been extremely supportive and played a huge part in persuading officers of a high rank to become involved in our scheme. David Atkinson, who not only created and maintained our Mercury Google map, but has taken many videos of our unveilings, as he is now. There are others who have supported us throughout and who have attended all or many of our unveilings. Particular thanks to Hugh Axton, Dave Askew, Nigel and Sue Sullivan, and Chris and Grace Galvin. I'd also like to thank Paul Ferguson, editor of the Clanfield Post, who has covered our progress since day one with some very welcome and well-written articles and photographs in his paper. Thanks too to Paul Sainer and Ian Ranscombe of the RNCCA for their support, particularly in the form of the amber liquid supplied for our unveiling on the Mercury site, and for keeping their website up to date with our progress. Ken Sutton, curator of the Mercury Museum upstairs, for his unstinting support throughout and for opening up his museum to us this morning. Christine Seaward and her team at the Sustainability Centre, who have maintained a keen interest in our progress and whose doors are always open to us all. A thank you too to all excommunicators around the world who have sent me very many messages of goodwill and who have maintained a keen interest in our progress from far afield as Australia, New Zealand and the United States. I haven't forgotten my Collingwood liaison, Warrant Officer Stan Matthews at the back there, but more on him after this from Dave. Keep falling down.
What do you put up from here?
You have to sit up here, Jackie, and get in.
Comes to giving buntry to the seaman, I suppose. Okay, so this is the last blue plaque today, but what of the future? The Mercury Blue Plaque scheme was originally envisaged as part of an overall scheme entitled HMS Mercury at Leydene, and there are some more things that may still be possible. We would love to install a history board at Leydene, telling the story of Leydene, the Peel family and HMS Mercury. That could still be on the cards. There's still a chance we may see an annual Mercury Day at Leydene. That was hinted at some time ago, so watch this space. The Naval Memorabilia Company, Forever Jack, is looking at producing replicas of all the Mercury Blue plaques as mementos of the scheme, so once again watch this space. The Mercury Blue Plaque Trail Tour, which is on the Google map, is still available as a tour, and that can be done as individuals or as a group, assuming you've got non-alcohol drivers. So who else knows what may turn up in the future? Even possibly some of the locations that turned us down, and there have been many disappointing ones, I'll tell you, or didn't respond, may one day change their mind. But whatever happens, the memory of HMS Mercury always lives on.
As I said, I want to make one final thank you now to Warrant Officer Stan Matthews. Stan, you want to come forward? Stan is the OIC of this building, and he has been very, very supportive indeed in our quest to put this plaque up here today. Indeed, without his persistence, patience and perseverance, I doubt this would have gone ahead. For those reasons, I'd like to present them with a small gift from the Mercury Blue Plaque scheme, whilst emphasising it's for you personally, not for the museum, not for Collingwood, for you personally. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Next on your wall,
My man cave at home. Thank you very much. Can I just quickly say?
your bio.
I never went to Mercury. I'm part of the new generation of communicators that came through in the sort of mid-90s. So I never experienced the joy, pleasure and just satisfaction of attending somewhere like Mercury. But I experienced enough two-star Crown, Killick Sparkers, Killick Buntings in my career to soak up enough of the nostalgia that surrounded a place like HMS Mercury. I hope that the memory of Mercury lives on, not only in this building, but also in the future communicator that's coming through the gates of Raleigh these days, because it was a special place. I've heard enough about it to say it with much sentiment and appreciation, and long may its memory continue. So.
So our duty unveiler today is Commodore Peter Swan, who you heard actually unveiled the first ever one 3 years ago. Peter and I first met when we served together on HMS Bulwark, a real flat-top aircraft carrier. Bulwark was decommissioned in 1976 and placed in a state called Preservation by Operation. With Invincible delayed in finishing building, it was decided to recommission Bulwark to fill the gap. And I was lucky enough to be given an early heads up and the offer of the ASCO's job, which I readily accepted. When I joined her on Monday the 27th of March 1978 in Portsmouth, the old Rusty B was in a poorly state. She was in dry dock with scaffolding all around the island, and 2 days later she moved for the first time in 2 years when tugs took her out of the dry dock and placed her alongside the jetty in Victory. And I was duty commanding officer. How cool was that? The late Rear Admiral Peter Dingemans, when tasked with preparing Intrepid for the Falklands, is quoted as saying, "A ship in dockyard hands resembles a filleted fish. You're left with the bare bones and a dismembered body." And that really was what it was like, because despite all the attendant publicity, the people who put the Rusty B into P/O didn't really believe she would sail again. They left very little behind and we had to start from scratch. The dockyard blacked the ship for 6 months when they found that blue asbestos was being removed from the ship, so it took nearly a year to bring her to an operational state. And the ship's company and the comms department slowly built up over that time. She was finally commissioned in February 1979 by Prince Charles and Lord Mountbatten. The Navy had faced a major challenge, suddenly having to find the crew for a carrier. Have you ever heard that before? So they cleared the training establishments and we ended up with a very young ships company and a very young comms department. And it wasn't just the youngsters who were newbies. When Peter joined us, he was a newly qualified AOC and the first AOC to be appointed to as SCO of a carrier. And I was the youngest and most junior fleet chief in the communication branch and possibly in the whole of the Navy. However, despite being a pair of splogs, we very quickly developed a professional partnership and a working relationship that was unique in my experience. In fact, it was a unique experience for everybody. But against all the odds, Bulwark quickly developed into a very happy ship. It all stemmed from a brilliant captain and commander, and it cascaded down through every level. It was the happiest and best ship in my naval career, and it ranked alongside FOF2 and FOS as my best 3 jobs in the Navy. We faced many challenges bringing her out of P/O, but after preliminary sea trials, we proceeded to Portland for work up there. Because we arrived as a happy ship, the FOS staff didn't really understand us. We left after 2 weeks with a satisfactory, still smiling, and the staff still not understanding us. The next 2 years were an absolute roller coaster as the ship fulfilled all her operational commitments around the UK, in Northern Europe, in the Med, and in the States, after alternating rapidly between her primary roles of anti-submarine and commando assault. Peter and I shared some memorable times. Every day seemed to bring new challenges and new experiences, particularly in the early days. In preparing these notes, I tried to record them all, but when I got to 3 pages, I gave up. There were so many unforgettable moments, far too many to detail here, so you'll have to wait for the book. Probably the most outstanding event was when we had a major fire alongside in Philadelphia in 1980 when a boiler blew up. We were rudely woken at 0545 on Saturday the 15th of March by the main broadcast alarm in the pipe. The abandoned ship must go on the jetty, which we did. It was snowing as I took charge of the comms division and throughout the morning provided manpower to form extra parties, while Peter, well, I'll leave Peter to tell you where he was at the time.
New York.
We had an excellent ships company and an excellent comms division, from the senior H right down to the youngest ROs. Everybody pulled their weight to keep the old lady going. It really was a case of work hard, play hard, which followed the old maxim of a happy ship is an efficient ship. Although I must admit we did have our fair share of rat bags as my regular visits to the commander's table proved. But everything we did, Peter was always there to offer help and advice. I always say that Peter taught me to be a warrant officer, and that I taught him something about being a real communicator. Peter and I met again a number of times in later years, both in the RN and afterwards, and he never changed. So I was really pleased when he joined the Blue Plaque team, and he gave us the support that's been a major factor in the success of the scheme. Peter ranks amongst the top 3 bosses I had during a naval career, and in keeping with the other 2, John Fieldhouse and David Brown, his greatest attribute is his understanding that loyalty is a two-way street. We don't have to take my word for it, Dave.
Oh, you cuddly little fellow. Oh, very kind. Thank you. My man cave. Thank you very much indeed.
My memories of our guest of honour today are long and remembered with great fondness. He is one of the most influential officers that I came across in my 24 years in the Navy. I make no apology for embarrassing him further by saying he is a true gentleman and was respected by all that served alongside him. He always had time for you, had a knack of remembering everyone's name, and always expressed his thanks for the job well done. Even to this day, there is still a sincerity about him, and it has been my pleasure to know this man for the last 35 years. I first encountered Peter in Britannia in the early 80s when, apart from having the dubious honour of being my DO, he was ACO and Flag Lieutenant to Flag Officer Royal Yachts. He was immensely popular with the communications branch. His cabin door was always open to you, and those of us senior rates seeking his audience and words of wisdom were often invited to share a wee dram during the process.
Oh.
Now it's all coming out.
I recall one very amusing incident involving a communicator on Britannia. We had an RO whose name was Keith Ellaby, and who, alas, was not blessed with good looks and suffered a speech impediment. We had very cruelly nicknamed him E.T. because of his remarkable resemblance to the famous extraterrestrial.
Oh.
One day, R.O. Ellaby was waiting outside Swanee's cabin, rather tearful, in fact breaking his heart, looking for some moral support and to complain about the nickname that had been given him, only to be greeted in a loud and jovial manner by Swanee with, "Hello, E.T., come in, what can I do for you?"
Called man management.
Another amusing incident was again in Britannia and related to me by ex-bunting Nobby Noble. Peter, coming up to the bridge for the middle one night, stood at the top of the ladder trying to get his night vision in focus, and looking across the bridge he saw a shape sitting in the Admiral's chair, and thinking it was the officer of the watch, went up behind him, smacked him across the head and said, "Who's the naughty boy sitting in the Admiral's chair?" To which the Admiral turned around and said, "Good evening, Peter." And one final dit of many surrounding our guest today. An ex-communicator who wishes to remain anonymous but is with us today recalls that when he left Britannia in 1982, his 264s, written by a certain Lieutenant Commander Swan, were very complimentary, except that the document claims that he was not blessed with an excess of brains. Now this guy went on to be a nuclear physicist. So that's what he tells me anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Nuclear physicist.
Oh, well, Dave, once more. Nearly finished.
More gizzards.
More gizzards.
More gizzards.
Oh, man.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. The Bulwark Last Commission. Isn't that lovely?
Lovely.
Isn't that lovely? Try fin and thing. Thank you very much indeed. That's really lovely.
Before handing over to Peter, I would like to announce that a donation of £50 has been received from Ned Davis, and Dave and I have doubled that to 100, and that will be placed behind the bar when we get there. First come, first served.
Very kind.
I have to tell you, I feel very embarrassed and very humbled by all these lovely things that people have said about me. They're all bloody lies from beginning to end, I can tell you. I had the most wonderful life. Oh, piss off. I was thinking when I came here, God, so much has changed in our time in the service. And just round here, Dolphin, Daedalus, Seafield Park, Fraser, Fleetlands, Hasler have all left the naval estate. And I heard last week that Sultan is to go and Dryad's going back to the old family as well. So our naval estate that we knew it has disappeared. And interestingly, none of those establishments has that rapport, that joie de vivre, that camaraderie that we have enjoyed from HMS Mercury.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was because we lived in the midst of bloody nowhere on top of that hill. We had to do something amongst ourselves because it was too awful to get out of the place. It was a very close, affectionate group up there. We, the officers, absolutely loved it. We could lord ourselves in a great country house and see ourselves as landed gentry with our shooting estate around it. Am I right?
Speak for yourself.
However, we were very aware, certainly up until the new build, that the sailors' accommodation, the ratings accommodation for the Gollies, the Buntings, were pretty bloody dire. And that walk up the hill from the rising sun, when you've had a skinful, is a hell of a long way to go. It was mentioned earlier, that place trained British, Commonwealth, NATO, and at the height of the IRA troubles, I went into my office one day, and outside my office were 3 cars with Irish number plates on them. And I thought we were about to be bombed, and I was told, no, we're now teaching the Republican Army naval communications. Quite incredible. This wouldn't have happened without the vision of that funny little bloke down there, no, David Morris. 3 years in Bolt together, I met a man who's got the greatest gift for writing doggerel and ditty. He has a wicked sense of humour, but he is a man of great vision. It was a joy to work with him. And when he legged it, he handed over to David, an absolute grafter, the man who put all this work and has enabled us to get together on regular occasions. So to both of them, thank you very, very much indeed, and congratulations to both of you.
Yeah.
I read in the latest edition of the Communication Chiefs Association a very good ditty about the Blue Plaque scheme written by Ollie. And I'm sorry she's not here, she's one of our unveilers, and I mentioned it to one of the other gentlemen here. Paul, can you remind her, I'd like to see that ditty finished off now with the last bit. You can't leave it hanging Judas as it is now. Okay. So what do we do now? Will it be a regular pub crawl? It's a hell of a long way to go for a pub crawl, and there's an awful lot of pubs to get round, isn't it? We perhaps take a bus and do half a pint in each or something like that. And then I thought, with all these young, fit communicators being led by, there he is, Mark, they ought to produce the Mercury Marathon, where you start at Mercury and you run to every pub on the route, and you finish off here. And we could send a record for it, and each year we could have it for the fittest communicator and see how it does. And I'm very happy to put up a cup for that one in the future. So there's another idea, David, for your plans for the future.
I'll give it a go.
My last abiding memory of HMS Mercury, I was a young sub-lieutenant, and we were accommodated in Hambledon Lodge, which was down in Hyden Wood. It had no heating in it at all, and there were 4 of us to a bedroom, and it was absolutely bitter. So much so that the guy over there had taken the carpet off the floor to put on his bed. Believe it or not, each morning the Wren stewards had to come down and make us a cup of tea. So they'd arrive in welly boots and overcoats. And one of them came in and handed a cup of tea to my friend under the carpet. And he said, "May I pop in with you?" So he lifted the carpet up and she got in for a cuddle. We then had to get up and march up the hill in our smart suits and spend 40 minutes going QAZ, WSX, EDB. It was miserable. It really was miserable. Anyway, Mercury is great and the people are great. Thank you all very much indeed. And now, if I may,